Ferrari just ran a test at Monza, and what Hamilton and Leclerc felt inside that upgraded car could be worth up to 2/10 per lap, enough to completely change the fight at the front. One session, two drivers, two completely different perspectives, and one upgrade that already failed once now back on the car. Because this was not a normal test. This was a risk, a redesigned floor, a new front wing, a completely reworked aerodynamic balance, and most importantly, the return of the most controversial system on the grid, the rotating rear wing, the one that caused instability, the one that forced Ferrari to remove it before, the one that could now give them massive straight-line speed. And both drivers felt it, but not in the same way. One found confidence, the other found questions, and inside that difference is the answer that could decide whether Ferrari just unlocked race-winning performance or created a new problem that will only appear when it matters most. At first, the reactions did not match. Leclerc stepped out of the car, and the first thing he focused on was balance. Not top speed, not straight-line gain. Balance. The way the car rotated through high-speed corners. The way the front end responded without hesitation. The way the rear stayed connected even under load. And that points directly to one thing. The floor. Because the revised floor Ferrari brought to Monza was the core of everything they were testing. More downforce. Cleaner airflow underneath the car. More stability in fast corners. And for Leclerc, that stability was there. Not perfect, but noticeable. The car felt more predictable. More aligned with what the data was promising. And that is critical. Because when a driver like Leclerc feels correlation between the simulator and the track, it means the development direction is working. But then, Hamilton got in the car. Same package, same conditions, same track, different feeling. Because what Hamilton focused on was not just balance. It was drivability, how the car behaves at the limit, how easy it is to extract performance, how natural it feels when pushing. And that is where things become interesting. Because the upgrades did improve certain areas. Stronger front end, better rotation, more stability in high-speed sections. But they also introduced something else. Sensitivity. The car reacts more sharply, more aggressively to small inputs, less forgiving when you go over the limit. And that creates a gap between two perspectives. Leclerc sees potential, Hamilton sees complexity, and both are right. Because this package is not just about adding performance. It is about redefining how the car behaves. Now here is where everything connects to the most controversial part of the test. The rear wing. The rotating system back on the car again. The one that failed before. The one that caused instability. The one Ferrari removed because it was not ready. Now it is back. And this time, it worked differently. The system returned to position correctly on the straights. The transition looked cleaner. The behavior more controlled. But here is the problem. Monza does not expose everything. Long straights, heavy braking zones, clear transitions is the perfect place to test maximum efficiency, but not the perfect place to test unpredictability. And that is exactly what Hamilton was feeling. Not failure, not a clear problem, but something not fully resolved. A system that works, but might still be sensitive under pressure. And that is the key difference. Leclerc is looking at what the car can become. Hamilton is feeling what it is right now. And that gap is where the real answer is hiding. And this is where everything becomes more complex. Because the upgrades Ferrari tested are not independent. They are connected. The floor changes the airflow. The front wing redirects it. The rear wing depends on it. Everything works together. And when you change all of it at once, you are not just adding performance. You are changing the entire behavior of the car. That is exactly what Hamilton was sensing. Because when he pushed harder, the car responded differently than expected. Not slower, not unstable in an obvious way, but sharper, more reactive, less forgiving when the inputs were not perfect. And that is critical. Because in Formula One, the fastest car is not the one with the most downforce, is the one the driver can trust at the limit. Now here is where the rear wing becomes even more important, because that rotating system does not just affect straight-line speed. It affects the balance of the car during transitions, from straight to braking, from braking to corner entry. And even though the system worked correctly on the straights, there is still a question. What happens when everything is happening faster? When the car is loaded laterally? When the driver is already turning? When there is no margin for delay? That is not something Monza fully reveals. And Hamilton knows it, because he is not just testing performance. He is testing behavior under pressure. That is why his feedback feels more cautious, more analytical, because he is already thinking about race conditions, dirty air, traffic, heat, tire degradation, all the variables that a filming day cannot simulate. Meanwhile, Leclerc is focusing on something equally important, potential, because what he felt in those high-speed corners was a car that finally starts to behave the way Ferrari intended. More stable, more connected, more consistent through fast sections. And that is not a small gain, because stability in high-speed corners translates everywhere. Confidence increases, speed follows, consistency improves. So now, Ferrari has two truths at the same time: a car with more potential than before, and a car that is more difficult to fully extract. And that combination is dangerous, because if they get it right, this package could transform their season. But if they do not, it could create a car that is fast but inconsistent, competitive but unpredictable. And that brings everything to one final question: not whether the upgrades work, but whether both drivers can use them at the same level. Because if only one driver can extract the performance, then the problem is not solved. It is just hidden. And that is exactly what Ferrari must answer next, before this package reaches a real race, where there are no second chances, and no controlled environments. Only pressure, only performance, only the truth. And this is where everything leads to a moment Ferrari cannot escape. Because there is a point where potential is no longer enough. It has to become performance, real performance, on track, under pressure, against rivals who are not experimenting, but executing. And that moment is Miami, not as another race, as a verdict. Because what Ferrari tested at Monza was not just an upgrade package. It was a transformation, a revised floor changing the foundation of the car, a new front wing redefining how air flows through it, a rear wing system that could give them a straight line advantage no one else has, all combined into one version of the SF26. And it has to work together, not in isolation, not in perfect conditions, but in reality, because that is where Hamilton's perspective becomes critical. He is not questioning the speed. He is questioning the consistency. Whether the car behaves the same way lap after lap, whether it can be trusted when tires degrade, whether it stays predictable when the race becomes chaotic. And that is something Ferrari has struggled with before. Fast in clean air, difficult in traffic, strong in qualifying, less convincing in races. So this package has to change that, not just improve it, change it. At the same time, Leclerc's confidence points in another direction, because what he felt suggests the foundation is finally correct. A car that responds naturally, a car that gives feedback clearly, a car that can be pushed without hesitation. And if that is true, then Ferrari is not just improving, they are unlocking. But here is the final piece, the one that connects everything. Both drivers are right, and that is exactly why this situation is so critical. Because Ferrari now has a car with higher potential, but also higher sensitivity, more performance available, but harder to access. And that creates a narrow window, a very narrow window, where everything has to align. Setup, temperature, driver input, track conditions. If it all comes together, Ferrari becomes a real threat. Not just competitive, dangerous, but if even one element is off, the performance disappears. And that is the risk. That is what Hamilton is feeling. That is what Leclerc is trying to unlock. And that is what Miami will expose. Because there is no control, no filming limits, no ideal conditions, no second attempts. Just one reality. Either Ferrari has built a car that can fight for wins, or they have created something fast, but fragile. And when the lights go out in Miami, we will finally know which one it is. And this is where everything finally comes into focus. Because what Hamilton and Leclerc revealed is not just about this upgrade. It is about Ferrari's identity this season. For the first time, they are not lacking ideas. They are not lacking innovation. They are pushing boundaries. A rotating rear wing that no one else dares to use. A floor designed to unlock more downforce without sacrificing speed. A car that is evolving aggressively, not cautiously. And that changes everything. Because Ferrari is no longer reacting. They are taking risks. But risk, in Formula One, always comes with a price. Because the more extreme the solution, the smaller the margin for error. And that is exactly where they are now. Right on the edge. Where one perfect weekend can change the entire narrative. Or one mistake can expose every weakness at once. Now think about what happens if this works in Miami. The rear wing delivers straight-line speed. The floor provides stability. The balance finally holds together under race conditions. Suddenly, Ferrari is not chasing anymore. They are dictating, forcing other teams to respond, forcing rivals to rethink their own concepts. And that is how championships shift. Not slowly, but in one moment, one upgrade, one race. But if it does not work, if the sensitivity becomes a problem, if the rear wing behaves unpredictably under pressure, if the car loses consistency over a race distance, then everything flips, because the same innovation that could win them races becomes their biggest weakness. And that is the tension inside Ferrari right now. Two drivers, two perspectives, one seeing the breakthrough, the other seeing the risk, and both pointing to the same truth. This car is faster, but is also more demanding. And in Formula One, the most demanding cars do not forgive mistakes. They expose them, lap after lap, corner after corner. So when the lights go out in Miami, this will not just be about speed. It will be about control, about precision, about whether Ferrari can handle the complexity they have created. Because if they can, this is the moment their season begins. But if they cannot, then what Hamilton and Leclerc revealed at Monza was not the start of a comeback. It was the warning sign that Ferrari may have built something incredible, but not something they can fully control.